High school had always felt like a long, fluorescent lit purgatory. Same faces, same noise, same slow crawl toward graduation. I was halfway to freedom when the announcement hit. The annual freshman challenge. Normally, it was dumb fun, wear pajamas, serve pizza, sing karaoke for humiliation's sake. But this year, the freshmen didn't just want laughs. They wanted legends. And by the time I realized what they'd planned, it was too late to back out. My name was already on the list. When the announcement hit the bulletin board, the hallway erupted with laughter and disbelief. I squeezed through the crowd, read the poster twice, and felt my stomach drop. Every participant, boys and girls alike, would spend 6 weeks dressed as the opposite sex. No exceptions. Full immersion. And we had to attend the spring gala that way. 6 weeks. Dresses, skirts, makeup, the works. I wasn't exactly thrilled. At 5'6", and a lean 130 pounds, I wasn't the most masculine guy around, and that made it worse. I could already imagine the teasing. My best friend Kevin thought it was hysterical. He kept calling me Miss Jason until I stopped responding. That night at dinner, I tried to play it cool when I told my family. My dad nearly choked laughing. Mom gave one of her thoughtful smiles, and my sister Emily, 2 years older and full of energy, looked way too excited. "You're about my size," she said with a smirk. "We'll have you looking adorable in no time." "Please don't," I groaned. "Oh, it's happening," Mom said lightly. "If you're going to do this, you're going to do it right. No half measures." I hoped she was joking. She wasn't. The next morning, she called me into her room like it was some secret mission. "Since you'll be dressing as a girl for quite a while, I assume you'd like to look your best." "I'd like to not do this at all." She didn't blink. "That's not an option, sweetheart. Now let's begin." Within an hour, I was standing awkwardly in my underwear while she applied a mysterious cream to my skin. "It'll help with the hair," she explained. The minty scent filled the room as I waited, mortified. After what felt like forever, she told me to shower, shave, and wash my hair with her floral shampoo. When I stepped out, I barely recognized myself: smooth skin, light hair clinging to my face, smelling faintly of lavender. I felt exposed and weirdly fragile. Mom handed me a pair of pale pink panties, and though I hesitated, modesty won. They fit awkwardly, stretched too thin to hide anything. Mom's expression was pure focus. "Turn around," she said, and before I could protest, she cinched a waist cincher tight around my torso. My breath caught. I stared into the mirror, my waist narrowed, my chest lifted, and when she added a bra with soft pads, I suddenly had curves. Real-looking ones. My reflection stared back at me, startled, embarrassed, and confused. Mom smiled gently. "See? Not so bad." Then came the makeup. Foundation, powder, subtle tones that blurred the sharp edges of my face. My reflection shifted again, the boyish lines softened, my features gentled. With every brush stroke, I looked less like Jason, and more like someone I didn't know, someone who could walk down the hall and make people look twice. By the time she finished, I didn't just see a boy in makeup. I saw the beginning of a girl staring back, hesitant, uncertain, but undeniably there. Mom guided me through every motion like a painter with a new canvas, patient even as I fumbled my way through the palette of powders and brushes. My hands trembled, clumsy with the tiny mascara wand that seemed designed for torture. But under her calm instruction, the chaos became rhythm. The soft brown shadow deepened my eyes, a gray shimmer tracing their curve. The liquid eyeliner demanded surgeon-steady focus. By the time the mascara brushed through my lashes, nearly blinding me twice, I could already feel the last remnants of Jason slipping beneath the surface. Then came the transformation I hadn't expected. Mom took her curling iron, spray, and brush, and in what felt like minutes, sculpted my hair into something out of a stylist's dream. Waves crowned the top, loose curls danced at the back, and soft bangs skimmed my brows. The person in the mirror looked nothing like the boy who'd woken up that morning. This was someone else entirely. someone delicate, someone convincing. She handed me a shaping brief and carefully patted my hips with small towels until my frame curved in places it never had. Pantyhose slid up my legs like a whisper, cool, electric, impossible to ignore. Then she brought the dress. Green, short-sleeved, square-necked, its fabric shimmered faintly as she zipped it up. I stepped into her black heels, shaky but obedient, and turned toward the mirror again. The hem hovered at mid-thigh, and to my horror, my legs looked impossibly long, smooth, and dare I admit it, graceful. There wasn't a single clue left that I was a boy. At the studio, the tech clicked a pair of tiny medical studs into place and handed me saline and a care card. Back home, Mom brushed my hair aside and turned my head toward the light. 6 weeks for the studs, then hoops, she said, half nurse, half artist. No shortcuts. I winced, then clasped a delicate necklace around my throat. She handed me a lipstick, a muted red that felt too soft, too human. When she dabbed perfume onto my neck and wrists, I no longer smelled like a boy at all. "What should we call you now?" she asked. I stared at my reflection, at the stranger in the mirror. The name left my mouth before I could stop it. Jessica. Mom smiled, the kind of smile that said this fits, and took my hand. My heels clicked sharply as we crossed the hardwood floor to the living room, each step an echo of disbelief. Dad looked up, his face froze. Emily gasped, then squealed, "Oh my God, you look amazing!" Mom's voice was warm, proud even. "Everyone, this is Jessica." Dad wasn't laughing anymore. He just stared, silent and stunned, like he was seeing something he couldn't quite process. And honestly, so was I. My reflection, that impossible hourglass the mirror kept insisting on illusion, left me wondering if maybe he wasn't wrong to be speechless. The doorbell rang, and fate decided to play cruel. Emily ran to answer it, Kevin. My pulse spiked. Emily introduced me casually, and when he looked at me, his jaw slackened. He didn't know. He thought I was her. "Kevin," Dad finally said with a dry smile. "This is Jason, or, as we're calling her for now, Jessica." The poor guy nearly fell over. After some awkward chatter, Mom sent him home, and I barely had time to breathe before Emily grabbed her keys. "Come on, we're going shopping." The Riverdale Mall was a blur of colors, laughter, and reflection-filled glass. Dozens of kids my age were trying on their own gender-swapped outfits, but no one recognized me. That realization hit hard relief, mixed with something strangely thrilling. If they didn't know who I was, maybe that meant I really could be this girl. Mom and Emily moved like a tactical unit through the store's bras, panties, flats, heels, gym shoes, a palette of colors I never imagined I'd need. Then came the salon. I begged to skip it, but Mom's mind was made up. The stylist cut my hair to just above my shoulders, shaping it into soft, easy curls that framed my face. She shaped the top with a curling iron, then set a few soft carves to hold the wave. I only registered the extra body later, when the style wouldn't fall flat no matter how I shook it. The drive home was the strangest part, sitting there in a dress, in heels, windows rolled down, and nobody staring. The world hadn't ended. By the time we got home, I still felt awkward and unbalanced, my movements unsure. But Emily just grinned and said, "You'll get used to it. Give it a few days and trust me, you're going to turn heads." I wanted to argue. Instead, I caught my reflection in the car window, a soft-haired, green-eyed girl staring back. And for a moment, I couldn't tell which one of us was pretending. Emily wasted no time taking charge once we got home. She marched me straight into the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, her eyes gleaming with purpose. "Sit," she commanded, setting out bottles, brushes, and tiny files like surgical tools. I obeyed, too tired to argue, watching as she filed, buffed, and polished with the precision of an artist at work. The process felt endless, a small eternity spent on 10 fingers, but when she finally leaned back, my hands looked transformed. The nails were longer, perfectly rounded, gleaming in the same soft red as my lipstick. The color made my fingers look impossibly slender, elegant even, and as I turned them under the light, something inside me shifted. My reflection no longer made me cringe. The hair, the smooth skin, the faint blush on my cheeks, it all came together in a way that felt alarmingly natural. "I think she likes it," Emily called toward Mom. Mom's laughter floated from the hallway. "I can see that. With that soft perm, she'll manage her hair easily. And by the end of the week, she'll be doing her own makeup." "Perm?" I asked, startled. Mom just smiled. "A soft one, sweetheart. It gives your hair body and a natural curl. Don't worry, it'll fade." Before I could protest, Dad appeared in the doorway. He stopped mid-step, coughed, and blinked a few times like he couldn't quite believe what he was seeing. His voice wobbled when he spoke. "Well, since you'll be like this until after the spring gala, I suppose you should get used to it." Then he cleared his throat. "I called Kevin. He'll be joining us for dinner at the Oak Ridge Country Club. You girls go change. 6 o'clock. "You girls." He actually said it. Emily grinned and tugged me toward her room. Her closet was a jungle of fabrics and colors, and she dove into it like an explorer. "Okay," she said, holding up 2 dresses, one white, one red. "You're new to this, so white will play up your innocent charm." I rolled my eyes. "Innocent? Really?" "Trust me. It'll work." She handed me the white organza dress, told me to strip, and went about undressing herself without hesitation. I turned away, awkward, but she just laughed. "Relax, Jessica. No one's judging. Get used to it, girls aren't shy around each other." She sat me down and took over the makeup again. Her tone softer now, more like a sister sharing secrets. "Mom's great, but she's from another era. You need something fresher." Under her guidance, my eyelids bloomed with pale blue and copper hues, shadows blending into each other, like sunrise over glass. Black eyeliner framed my eyes, and a soft pencil traced beneath them for definition. Her mascara added thickness and length until my lashes brushed the air when I blinked. Then came the push-up bra, an architectural marvel that turned suggestion into certainty. The white lace framed me perfectly, and when she slipped the dress over my head and zipped it up, I felt a rush of self-conscious heat. The neckline dipped lower than anything I'd ever imagined wearing, and the sheer fabric flared just enough to tease. Emily called it a date-bait dress. I called it dangerous. She completed the look with gold and white chandelier earrings, a matching choker, and a spritz of her perfume, something light, floral, expensive. 2 of her rings went on my fingers, and by the time I found a purse that matched, even I had to admit, the mirror didn't lie. I looked stunning. Back in the family room, Mom's eyes widened. "Oh my! Jessica, you look spectacular. Kevin won't know what hit him." "Why would he care?" I muttered. "He knows who I am." Mom smiled knowingly. "He's a teenage boy, honey. Trust me, logic has very little to do with it." Dad came down moments later, Emily glowing beside him. His gaze lingered for half a second too long before he coughed and turned toward the door. "Let's go, ladies." On the drive to the club, Emily squeezed my hand. Her warmth was steady, reassuring. "You're doing better than I expected," she said softly. "You know, you're actually pretty." I laughed under my breath, a mix of nerves and disbelief. "Pretty," I repeated. "Right." But when I glanced at my reflection in the car window, the soft curls, the shimmer of the dress, the painted lips, even I had to admit it. She wasn't wrong. I wanted to ignore the strange warmth growing inside me, but I couldn't. The mirror, the clothes, the way people looked at me, it was all starting to feel disturbingly natural. And Emily, sharp as ever, must have seen it. My first compliment came before I even stepped inside the restaurant. As I climbed from the car, the doorman smiled, took my hand, and helped me out as if I were someone worth noticing. Mom leaned in with a teasing grin. "That was naughty, Jessica. You don't have to show the poor man all that leg. I forgot, I muttered, cheeks hot. She said, clearly not buying it. Inside the Oak Ridge Country Club, Dad held my arm like a gentleman escorting two ladies, Mom on one side, me on the other. The click of our heels echoed through the polished hall, drawing a few stares. Mom looked radiant, Emily effortless, and somehow, impossibly, I fit beside them. A few of my classmates were there too, but no one gave me the second look I feared. If they recognized me, they hid it well. Kevin arrived soon after. He looked shockingly grown up in a suit, awkward, nervous, but confident enough to meet my gaze. When his eyes locked with mine, he smiled, and something flickered between us that I didn't want to name. Dinner blurred into quiet conversation and soft, clinking silverware. Twice, Kevin's hand brushed mine, light but deliberate, and I told myself it was coincidence. Mom didn't believe that for a second. In the ladies' room, she and Emily cornered me. I told you Kevin would forget who you are, Mom said, grinning. What? He's just being polite. Emily laughed. Polite doesn't mean holding hands under the table. It was accidental. Uh-huh, Mom said, her tone dripping with disbelief. Back at the table, I could barely meet Kevin's eyes. Then the band struck up a slow song, and before I could think, Mom and Dad were on the dance floor. Emily whisked away by some admirer, and it was just Kevin and me. Want to dance? He asked. Kevin, I'm not a girl, and I don't even know how. He smirked. Good. Then you won't try to lead. He stood, took my hand, and pulled gently until I followed. The moment his arm slid around my waist, something inside me twisted. His warmth pressed close as the music wrapped around us. I stumbled through the first few steps, tense and uncertain, but Kevin guided me easily. When the song shifted into a tango, he didn't let me go. The dance became a conversation without words, his hand steady on my back, his movements confident, teasing, daring me to keep up. The rhythm pulsed through the floor and into my chest, dissolving all sense of who I was supposed to be. For a few minutes, I wasn't Jason pretending. I was Jessica, and I was alive. When the music stopped, I could hardly breathe. Kevin wanted to drive me home, but Mom refused, and he settled for walking me to the car. The way his eyes lingered made my pulse jump again. He's love-struck, Emily whispered to Mom as we drove away. He's just being polite, I protested. Mom smiled knowingly. Sure, sweetheart. Back home, Emily unzipped my dress, and I changed quickly for bed, though my mind wouldn't quiet. The compliments, the attention, even Dad calling me her, I didn't hate it. In fact, I liked it more than I dared admit. Kevin's reaction haunted me most of all. The way he looked at me wasn't confusion, it was attraction. What scared me was how easily I'd met his gaze and not looked away. The next morning, Emily and I reorganized my room. She insisted I needed my own space, my own wardrobe. Together, we filled my closet. 5 skirts, 4 dresses, a handful of blouses, and enough little details to complete the illusion. She even set up a vanity, complete with mirror and light bulbs that made my reflection glow. Alone later, I caught sight of myself again. In shorts and a t-shirt, I should have looked like a boy, but I didn't. The curve of my hips, the softness of my face, the polish of my nails, it all betrayed me. That's when the decision settled in my mind. I could laugh it off and play the clown at school, or I could lean in and make it real. Looking at my reflection, I knew the truth. The second option scared me less. I found myself cutting foam pads in the basement to perfect the shape of my hips, planning outfits for Monday, rehearsing how I'd walk through those halls. The name Jessica no longer felt borrowed, it was becoming mine. The foam padding trick worked better than I expected. It gave me a soft curve, the faint pouch every woman seems to have. The shaping brief kept everything neatly hidden, and with the waist cincher snug and the bra shaping my chest, my reflection carried no trace of the boy underneath. That morning, I kept my makeup light a dusting of shadow, a clean line of eyeliner, a touch of blush, a natural pink on my lips. White gym shoes grounded the look. Purse in hand, I headed to the kitchen. Mom gave me her sharp once-over, nodded approvingly, and sent me on my way. Driving to Jefferson High felt surreal, like watching my own life from a distance. When I walked across the courtyard, it was clear that not everyone had pulled off the switch. Some girls tried hard to mimic boys and ended up looking like kids in costume. A few nailed it. Most of the boys looked ridiculous in dresses, awkward, uneven wigs, lipstick smudged except for two of us, Chloe and me. She'd chosen her name confidently, and it fit her sharp cheekbones, an easy smile, and the kind of natural poise that made people stop and stare. Dylan, who'd taken the challenge halfway, had the features for it, but forgot to shave her legs. Chloe promised to mentor her. The rest laughed it off, treating the whole thing like a joke. I wished I could, too. By midday, the novelty had worn off, and everyone seemed to settle into their roles. There was confusion over bathrooms, bursts of laughter, the occasional compliment shouted across the hall. But as the hours passed, the stares softened. By the time the final bell rang, I wasn't the boy in the dress anymore, just Jessica, another girl walking down the hall. Kevin passed me twice, smiling each time. I pretended not to notice, though my heart skipped anyway. The next day, I decided to stop hiding behind subtlety. I wore a short blue jumper, white heels, and fire engine lipstick that demanded attention. It worked. Heads turned. At lunch, Ryan, tall, broad-shouldered, confident, intercepted me. "Jessica, can we talk?" "Sure," I said, balancing my tray. We sat, the buzz of conversation around us fading as he leaned closer. "Are you planning to give this up after the spring gala?" The question caught me completely off guard. Before I could answer, he smiled. "You, Chloe, Hannah, you look real. I mean really real. Chloe says she's not going back, and I was wondering." He hesitated. "Would you go to the show with me Friday night?" For a second, my brain stopped. Then, before I could overthink it, I heard myself say, "I guess so. Why not?" He grinned. "Perfect. 7 o'clock." When he walked away, the shock gave way to something else, a strange thrill that spread through me like warm electricity. Someone had just asked me out. As a girl. Later, Chloe giggled when I told her. "Logan asked me too," she said proudly, "and Hannah's already got a fan club." It was becoming a pattern, boys chasing girls who weren't, or maybe were becoming, something else. Then Alex, formerly Jean, caught up with me near the lockers. She'd managed to look convincingly male, her voice lower, movements rougher. "Hey Jess," she said carefully, "are you going to that show Friday?" "I am," I said. "With Ryan?" I nodded. She sighed. "He's been staring at you since day one. Be careful, he's got the hots for you." That night, when I told Emily, she didn't lecture or tease. She just laughed softly, hugged me, and whispered, "Told you so." At dinner, I mentioned casually, "Ryan's coming by Friday at 7. Dad kept eating, oblivious, while Mom's knowing glance said everything. By the end of the week, Jefferson High felt almost normal. The whispers faded. I was just another face in the crowd. The girls noticed the small details, my soft perm, my acrylic nails, the subtle way I moved my hands. They saw me for what I was becoming. The boys? They just saw a girl. One night, scrolling online, I stumbled onto a forum selling specialized items for cross-presentation. I printed a few instruction sheets, read them over in secret. The idea terrified me and thrilled me in equal measure. Each night, I'd stand in front of the mirror a little longer, hair loose, skin smooth, curves outlined by soft light. I couldn't deny the truth anymore. Somewhere along the line, this stopped being a costume. I traced my reflection, the nylon brushing against my legs, the soft give of fabric under my fingers. My heart raced, not from embarrassment, but from something far more dangerous longing. And later, When sleep came, it brought dreams: a silver-lit sky, a slow dance by the water, a boy's hand at my waist, a kiss that lingered long after I woke. That night, the dream lingered even after I woke, not in images, but in sensations that clung to my skin. It was more than fantasy now, it was becoming part of me. By Friday evening, anticipation buzzed in my chest. I changed out of my day dress into a soft skirt and top, touched up my makeup, brushed out my hair until it shimmered, and added a mist of perfume. When I came downstairs, Dad looked up from his paper. "Why the outfit change?" he asked. "Ryan's picking me up," I said lightly. "We're going to the show." For a moment, his face froze: surprise, confusion, anger, all flashing at once. "You accepted a date with a boy?" I met his eyes, steady, despite the fear under my ribs. "I'm not staying home every weekend for 2 months. And besides, Ryan's cute." He nearly exploded, but Mom intervened, her tone calm but firm. "You've known about this, remember? She told you earlier in the week. Let her make her own choices." When the doorbell rang, Ryan's timing couldn't have been sharper. He looked neat, his smile easy, his confidence steady. Dad's voice softened only slightly. "You kids have fun. Ryan, she's to be home by 1. "Yes, sir," Ryan said respectfully, and offered me his hand. The evening felt effortless. He paid for the movie, bought us dinner after, and made me laugh more than I expected. When he pulled into the park later, the car idled in the hush of night. The air was warm, sweet with the scent of spring. He turned toward me, his hand resting lightly on my shoulder, as he talked about school, music, the absurdity of the whole gender swap experiment. Then, slowly, he leaned in. Our lips met in a careful, uncertain kiss that deepened before either of us could stop it. For a heartbeat, I let it happen. The world tilted. Every nerve hummed. His words came soft, close enough for me to feel them. "I don't care who you were before," he whispered. "You're the most beautiful girl in Jefferson High." That snapped something inside me, fear, maybe, or the last of my denial. I pulled back gently and told him to take me home. He didn't argue, just nodded and smiled faintly, as if he understood more than I did. When we reached the house, he walked me to the door and kissed me again, soft, restrained, but lingering. Dad was waiting in the living room. "Did you enjoy your date, Jessica?" "Yes, it was fun." "That young man likes you a lot," he said slowly. "Seeing you kiss him makes me wonder what else happened." "Nothing happened. And even if it did, it's none of your business." The words were out before I could stop them. I ran upstairs, closed my door, and pressed my back against it, heart pounding. His anger scared me, but not as much as the truth that I couldn't unfeel what I felt. The next morning, the house was quiet and tense. I wore a simple skirt and blouse, helping Mom and Emily clean. Mom broke the silence first. "Your father's upset, sweetheart." "I know. He asked if I slept with Ryan." "And what did you tell him?" "That it's impossible. We're both boys." I hesitated. "But he doesn't see me that way anymore. None of them do." Mom sighed. "He's confused. He raised a son, and now he's watching his son disappear. You need to talk to him yourself. He loves you. He just doesn't understand yet." Later that day, Kevin dropped by. He mentioned seeing Chloe and Hannah at the Riverdale Mall, laughing, shopping, blending in as effortlessly as any girls. Something in his tone made me wonder what he wasn't saying. After he left, Emily and I retreated to my room. I showed her what I'd found: online products made for people like me, people who lived between lines. Her gasp turned into quiet curiosity. She promised not to tell anyone. The next week, Ryan and I started sitting together at lunch. People noticed, of course. Whispers followed, but I didn't care. Chloe was seeing Ethan now, and Hannah had a small crowd of admirers. The chaos was almost comforting. Then Chloe came to school in a pale summer dress that made jaws drop. She had curves, real ones. When I asked, she confessed she'd been taking her mother's hormones for a year, long before this experiment began. My mom was furious at first, she said, but eventually she just accepted me. That confession stuck with me. I couldn't stop thinking about it. Maybe it was time to take another step, too. On Thursday, I called Mom into my room. My hands trembled as I showed her the printouts from the site diagrams, explanations, the kind of details you can't misunderstand. Her eyes widened as she scanned the pages. And in that silent moment, I knew everything was about to change again. Mom's eyes flicked between me and the printouts on the desk, her face unreadable. "You understand what this means, don't you?" she asked quietly. According to these, the changes would last at least 2 months. That's well past the spring gala, nearly to graduation. I nodded. "Look at me, Mom. In just a few weeks like this, Kevin and Ryan have both fallen for me. It's not just dress up anymore. It feels right. I like being this way. I am this way. I can't go back." She exhaled slowly, setting the pages down. "Have you talked to your father?" "Not yet." Her gaze lingered on one of the images. "These look so real. And this part, I finished for her." "It's supposed to. That's what it's made for. It gives the appearance of being fully female, even undressed." She shook her head, torn between disbelief and something that looked like pride. "Your father must never know about that detail, do you understand?" "I won't tell him." For a long moment, she just stared at me. Then, with a resigned sigh, she said, "Order it. But wait to talk to your father until after you've put them on." That night, I filled out the order form under her watchful eye, trembling as I pressed submit. The week that followed stretched forever. Each day I checked the mail like a ritual until, finally, the package appeared on my bed, unopened, but waiting. My hands shook as I unwrapped it. Inside were 2 flawless breast forms, soft and tinted to match my skin, and the specialized garment that had become an obsession in my thoughts. Mom came in quietly as I read the instructions. "Would you help me?" I asked. She hesitated only a moment, then nodded. Together, we followed each step carefully. The adhesive sealed the forms perfectly. No seams, no edges, nothing but smooth skin. When I looked in the mirror, it was like seeing another life settle into place. The second part, the sculpted undergarment, took more effort, but once it was on and fitted, my reflection was complete. The body in the mirror was seamless, feminine, entirely believable. For a while, we just stood there, both silent. Mom's voice broke it. "Your father will need time. Tell him by Friday, and leave the details out." That night, lying in bed, I couldn't stop looking at myself. The soft curves beneath the fabric, the new weight on my chest, the way my body now moved, it all felt frighteningly natural. Emily peeked in later, her grin mischievous as always, suggesting ridiculous outfits for my big reveal. I ignored most of them, finally settling on one of her short, low-cut dresses. I wanted Dad to see, to understand that this wasn't padding or pretense anymore. Thursday evening came faster than I expected. I walked to the dinner table with my heart hammering, every step measured, every breath rehearsed. The dress clung to me in all the ways that used to be impossible. When Dad looked up, his expression froze. I stood by my chair. "Dad, I'm not going back. I've found who I am, and I like it. I don't want to stop." The silence that followed was long and sharp. "Does this have anything to do with those items you ordered online?" he asked finally. He knew. My pulse spiked. "How?" "They called to confirm the purchase on my credit card," he said flatly. "They explained exactly what you bought." The room felt smaller. "Then you already understand. These just make it easier for me to live this way." He nodded once, expression hard. "I understand enough. You've made your decision without me. But remember, decisions have consequences. Documents, records, your name, none of that will match. You'll have to figure that out on your own." He gestured to the table. "Now sit down and eat." Dinner was quiet, heavy with things unsaid. Afterward, I helped Mom and Emily with the dishes. He's angry, Mom whispered softly. But he'll come around. He told me he suspected this from the moment he saw you leave with Ryan. The house stayed tense for days. Emily and Mom tried to make it normal, chatting, laughing, pretending, while Dad drifted like a storm cloud in another room. I caught his eyes a few times unreadable, but not cruel, just lost. That night, Emily's old advice floated back to me, a reckless idea I'd dismissed. I pulled open her closet and found the baby doll she'd mentioned. I knotted a silk robe over a plain nightdress and stood in the doorway, heartbeat in my throat. For a breath, I let the robe fall open, not to shock him, but to refuse the old silhouette. Mom's breath caught, Dad's jaw set. Cover yourself, young lady. I pulled the sash tight. Thank you, I whispered, because he'd used the only word I needed to hear. I ran my fingers over the fabric, hesitating. Then, slowly, I slipped it on. The mirror didn't show a disguise anymore. It showed the person I'd already become. The house was quiet when I made my decision. Emily was out. The TV murmured faintly in the family room where my parents sat, and my pulse thundered in my ears. I tightened the robe's sash, took one last look in the mirror at the person I had become, and stepped into the hallway. Each step echoed. When I reached the doorway, I hesitated only a second before I let the robe fall open. Mom's gasp cut through the room. Dad's head snapped up, and for a moment, his expression didn't make sense. Disbelief twisting into anger, confusion, something close to grief. His mouth flattened into a hard line. Cover yourself up, young lady. The words struck like a whip. I pulled the robe closed again, heart hammering, but managed to whisper, Thank you. Then I sat down across from them. For a moment, none of us spoke. His stare pinned me, part fury, part shock, part something I couldn't name. I assume this display was meant to make a point, he said at last, his voice sharp. You've changed. I get that. You want to be a girl, fine. But you also want me to approve of it, to like it, to act as if this, he gestured vaguely, is normal. You didn't need to play the temptress just to prove you've gone too far. Dad, it's not about that. My voice trembled, but I didn't back down. I'm not trying to shock you, but look at me, really look. Do you think I'd go through all this if I had a choice? You know I never played dress-up as a kid. I wasn't hiding anything. But when this happened, when I saw myself, it felt right in a way nothing else ever has. When Kevin and Ryan looked at me like I was a girl and treated me that way, I didn't plan it. But it felt real. When Ryan kissed me, I was terrified, but it felt right. It still does. I swallowed hard, blinking back tears. If you can't accept that, I'll leave after graduation. But I can't pretend to be your son again. Dad's chair scraped against the floor as he rose. His voice was thunder now. Don't you dare talk to me like that. Not in that tone, not ever. The command rooted me to the floor. He glared at me, eyes like burning coal. Are you absolutely sure this is the life you want? You'd give up your manhood, everything, just to live like this? I took a slow breath. How could I deny it now? Yes. This is who I am. And I'm not giving it up. We stared at each other, two immovable forces across a narrow battlefield. Finally, I looked away. He exhaled heavily. Jessica, it's not the clothes. It's everything else. The boys, the kissing, the body you've built. I know what those products can do. I know they make you look completely female. That's what I can't handle. I shook my head. You're exaggerating, Dad. Have you ever talked to Emily this way? No. You treat her like she can do no wrong, but me? I'm the mistake. The embarrassment. You called me a fairy once, remember? Well, you were right, but you know what? It's the fairies that get punished, not the princesses. The words landed like a slap. He froze, as if I'd just struck him. The silence after that was unbearable. And then Mom stood. Her voice cut through the air like glass. Enough! Both of you sit down, now! We obeyed, stunned. She stood between us, her eyes blazing. Jessica is not a fairy, and she's not a tart. She's not even fully our daughter yet. But she's trying to understand herself, and she's doing it under our roof, with our love. That counts for something. Her gaze shifted to Dad. You keep demanding that she be a man. But being a man isn't the only way to be good. She's kind. She's trying. And she needs her father, not his judgment. Dad said nothing. His jaw worked, his fingers drumming on his knee. Mom pressed on, relentless. And another thing, you never treated Emily this way. You trust her, you laugh with her, you let her live. Yet you act like Jessica is corrupt for wanting the same freedom. You think she's in danger because boys look at her, but you forget. She can't even get in trouble the way Emily could. You're punishing her for something she isn't, not something she's done. Her words fell like stones in the silence that followed. Dad finally sank back in his chair, eyes distant, lost. I sat motionless, unsure whether to cry or speak. Mom's tone softened. Thomas, please, see her, she's still your child. Just in a different shape. For the first time, Dad looked directly at me, really looked. His expression had changed. There was no anger left, just the weight of something older and sadder. I didn't move. Neither did he. But for the first time in weeks, I thought maybe we both wanted the same thing, a way to stop fighting and start understanding. Dad's expression softened in a way I hadn't seen in months. The weight of everything between us hung heavy, but for once, he didn't sound angry, just tired. I never expected this, he said, shaking his head. I thought it would blow over a joke, a phase. I never expected my son to look better than his sister, and I sure didn't expect him to start liking boys. I took a breath, meeting his eyes. I didn't either. I never looked at boys that way before, but I wasn't going to lock myself away while everyone else was living. Ryan asked. I said yes, and it felt right, even though it scared me. He didn't interrupt, just listened. When he kissed me, I continued softly, something shifted. I stopped pretending. I stopped wishing I could turn it off. I realized this is who I am. You're worried someone's going to take advantage of me, but what would they even find? Silicone and glue, maybe. None of that matters, though. It's not about that. It's about feeling real. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he stood, came over, and took my hands in his rough, warm grounding. He pulled me gently to my feet and wrapped his arms around me. No more fairy, okay? He murmured. Let's make it kitten instead. The word cracked something open inside me. I couldn't hold it back. The tears came hard and fast, soaking into his shirt as he held me tight. When he finally let me go, I barely managed a whisper. Thank you. He brushed my cheek, awkward but genuine. Go get some rest, kitten. I fled to my room, shut the door, and leaned against it, shaking with relief. The confrontation was over. Not a victory, not a loss, just peace. Mom had forced both of us to face the truth. I had to stop flaunting my rebellion, and Dad had to start seeing me as more than the son he lost. The next morning, I dressed carefully, a white pleated skirt, bright green blouse, black heels. My reflection looked calm, confident. I wasn't pretending anymore. At school, I felt the weight of sleeplessness, but also something new. Ease. Ryan was out of town, and without him around, I could breathe. When I came home, Dad was waiting. Usually, he worked late. My stomach tightened, expecting more tension, but his face was different, thoughtful, almost shy. Jessica, he said quietly, handing me a small velvet box. This is for you. Inside was a gold ring, a diamond, surrounded by 6 tiny emeralds. Your birthstone, he said. I thought you might like it. Words failed me. I threw my arms around him, clinging so tightly he had to poke me in the ribs to make me stop. I told you last night I was wrong, he said gruffly. Let it go at that. The ring fit perfectly. That evening, He took me to dinner at the club, just the two of us. For the first time, it felt like father and daughter, not a battle. We talked, laughed, even danced a little. He admitted what really frightened him wasn't the transformation itself, but the idea of me being with another boy. It wasn't disgust, just confusion, fear. By the end of the night, we understood each other a little more. Days passed, and something inside me shifted again. I found rhythm in the rituals, doing my nails on Thursdays beside Mom and Emily, planning outfits, laughing in the mirror. The other boys in the program were improving too. Now 6 of us could have passed for girls without question. There were even scandals Hannah caught in the back seat with her date, Chloe turning heads at the pool in a bikini that left nothing to imagination. She had her own curves, real ones. I had my secrets, but the illusion was perfect. When Ryan asked me to the spring gala, I said yes before he finished the question. That weekend, Mom, Emily, and I went shopping. I tried on 3 dresses. The first too floaty, the third too simple. The second, a white sequined piece that shimmered under the lights, fit like it had been waiting for me. The neckline dipped low, the hem skimmed my thighs, the bodice hugged every new curve. "This one," I said. Mom smiled, quietly proud. We finished with white satin heels, a rhinestone necklace, and delicate lingerie that matched the dress perfectly. For the first time, I looked in the mirror and didn't see a disguise. I saw myself fully, finally, and knew I was ready for the night that would change everything. The week before, the spring gala felt electric. Every morning at Jefferson High, someone mentioned dresses, limos, or after parties, and I couldn't help smiling because I knew I was going to surprise them all. At home, I rehearsed everything: dress, shoes, hair, the turn at the mirror that made the rhinestones flare like captured stars. Mom said it was perfect. Emily whistled and called me pure date bait. Dad turned red, coughed, and looked away, but didn't say a word. That was victory enough. On the morning of the gala, I let the salon work its magic. Curls piled high, soft tendrils tracing my cheeks, a manicure that glimmered like glass. By the time I left, I felt lighter than air. At home, I treated myself to the longest bath in history: cream remover, bubbles, everything. When I stepped out, smooth and scented, there wasn't a single rough edge left of the boy I used to be. Getting dressed was almost ceremonial. Satin panties, the white sequined dress, perfume that whispered when I moved. I descended the stairs slowly, heart thundering, as Dad stood and crossed to me. He kissed my cheek and said softly, "I know you'll be a wonderful daughter, Jessica. Have a nice time tonight." That moment, those words were more precious than the ring on my finger. Ryan's grin when he saw me said the rest. We joined the glittering crowd under the gym's lights, Hannah with Kevin, Chloe with Ethan, and 2 more of our girls, radiant and unrecognizable. The night spun on, music too loud, food too sweet, the laughter of people trying to hold on to something fleeting. When the gala wound down, Ryan drove us to the lake. The air was cool, the water a sheet of silver under the moon. He slipped his arm around me, and for a moment, the noise of the world disappeared. The kiss came gently, the kind that lingers more in the chest than on the lips, a moment full of confusion, affection, and wonder that neither of us quite understood. The next morning, Emily poured coffee and eyed me with a knowing smile. She didn't ask for details. She didn't have to. "Most girls give in to something on gala night," she said lightly. "Welcome to the sisterhood." We laughed, and in that moment, we truly were sisters, no disclaimers needed. Later, Chloe and Hannah came by with Lily, another of our special girls. We traded stories, secrets, lessons, learned makeup tricks, hair tips, small confessions about how it felt to live between 2 worlds. Lily soaked it in, wide-eyed and eager, and by the time they left, we all knew she was one of us. We never went back. We finished the semester, walked the halls, signed yearbooks, and crossed the stage at graduation as the girls we had become. They called Jessica Marie when I crossed the stage. the paperwork would take longer, but the name felt official the moment the microphone found it. Dad was there, smiling, proud, his arm around me as flashbulbs popped. Mom cried. Emily cheered. I don't know what the future holds, only that I've begun a new journey, one that will take time, courage, and maybe more changes still. But as long as Ryan's hand finds mine, I remember who I am. And I am no longer pretending.